Good morning, Skallywags, and welcome to another episode in a series of enigmatic events. I'm Shpoo.
I'm AJ.
Are movie curses real?
We all know that Hollywood can be a dangerous place. One bad movie can end your career. But there are several people who think that there are movies that end more than just that.
The concept of the cursed movie is absolutely nothing new. Even dating as far back as 1939 with The Wizard of Oz, where multiple actors who were playing flying monkeys were injured when the support cords that were holding them up snapped, causing them to crash to the ground.
Actor Buddy Ebsen, who played the Tin Man originally, got poisoned by the dust that they put in his makeup to make it silver.
Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch, actually got set on fire at one point when a pyrotechnic effect went off too early.
And even Betty Danko, who was the stunt double for Hamilton, got injured when her broom exploded.
How does a broom explode?
Boom.
Apparently. And no, we are not including the infamous Munchkin hanging scene. That is just a myth. It never happened.
It's a bird.
It's a bird. It's a big, like, flamingo crane-looking thing. So just to clarify, not including that.
So we're going to talk about more modern movies. You could talk about The Conjuring, which depicted the possession of Caroline Perron.
One day, the real Perron family actually visited the set, and as soon as they walked through the door, they were met with this huge gust of wind. Apparently, it was weird enough for it to actually kind of be noticeable. And apparently, at the exact same time, Caroline Perron was sitting at home. The real Caroline Perron said that she felt an evil presence there in the room that caused her to have a really nasty fall. Also, even before production even began, when James Wan was actually writing the script for it, he said that he would sit in his office typing away and his dog kept growling and barking at something over in the corner. There was nothing there, but the dog was following it around the room and just kept growling at it. And this happened over the course of several nights, so this wasn't like a one-time isolated incident kind of thing. So that's always weird when that happens. There's plenty of videos and stuff out there whenever cats and dogs see stuff we can't.
It happens.
Yeah.
You would think.
Then the script supervisors actually had to call Lorraine Warren, of course the movie based on Ed and Lorraine Warren, but every time they tried to call, the phone kept dropping out. They would just hear static and said that they kept hearing what sounded like angry voices in the static.
That's probably what happens when you call a demonologist.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's Annabelle. It's a creepy Raggedy Ann doll. And even the hotel where the crew was staying at during production actually had to be evacuated because the entire building caught on fire.
So even less popular films have had their what they call curses.
Curses!
Are you done?
Wrong kind of curses.
Wrong kind of curses.
Okay, that's like old movies.
Okay.
Anyway, take, for example, the 2012 film The Possession, starring Jeffrey Dean Morgan. This movie tells the story, it's supposedly a true story, or at least based on a true story, about a family that buys a Dybbuk box at a garage sale, which, if you're selling a Dybbuk box at a garage sale, maybe the garage sale was at Ed and Lorraine Warren's house, who knows. But of course, the family starts getting, bothered by a demon because, well, they bought a Dybbuk box at a garage sale.
On set, cold drafts would fill the entire set, but only when they were filming scenes with the demon.
Oh.
Also, light bulbs would just explode in the middle of a scene. But again, only during the demon scenes.
Then the storage facility where they held all the props for the movies, again, caught on fire and destroyed everything.
Fire's a thing.
Yeah, it does that. It does destroy things. Not only could the fire department find absolutely no cause for the fire, but I guess the guy that owned the real Dybbuk box that the one in the movie was based on, he offered to bring it over. He's like, well, you can just use this one. And they're like, yeah, that's a hard pass on that. We're having enough problems as it is. We don't need a real one. So thank you, but no. But is there any real merit to any of these curse claims? Today and Thursday, we're going to be looking into just that. We're going to look into a few of the more popular movie curses and, well, see what we can uncover. So with that, let's dive right in.
First up is a curse not based on a movie, but a character.
Ah.
And of course, we're talking about the famous Superman curse. Is that your Superman pose?
That's my Superman pose. That's about all I got. Can't exactly do the spit curl.
I could try. Oh.
I look like TV's Frank. And if you got that joke, we can be friends.
This curse alleges that anyone who plays or portrays Superman in movies or TV or anything, they come to some real tragic ends after they've played that
Right.
character. Everything from career failures to catastrophic injury to death.
Kirk Allen, who played Superman in a couple of the serials back in the 1940s, failed to find any kind of work whatsoever after he played Superman because, well, he kept getting typecast, which, honestly, that is a common theme amongst guys that play Superman. I think most of them, at least, have been typecast, pretty much, after they played him.
I feel like that's a common theme with a lot of superheroes.
True.
So.
But as a result of this, he actually ended up doing a lot of, like, voiceover work and commercials and like uncredited cameos basically, and like glorified extra in the background kind of thing for the rest of his life. He did actually have a blink and you'll miss it cameo in the 1978 Richard Donner Superman movie, where he actually played Lois Lane's dad at the beginning of the movie whenever Clark is running by the train and she's like, "Look, a boy, and he's like, "Yeah, whatever, kid." And he's like reading the paper. That was Kirk Allen. Unfortunately, later in life, Allen actually developed Alzheimer's, and he passed away in 1999 at the ripe old age of 88.
So we go from one of the oldest to the youngest. We're talking about actor Lee Quigley. Now, if that name doesn't sound familiar, that's because he is the one who played baby Superman in the 1978 movie. So, you know that scene where they send him off to Earth and the little baby? That's him. He was the youngest person to ever play Superman that I found. Lee passed away in 1991 at the age of 14 from solvent abuse.
More famously, of course, is George Reeves, who was the first guy to play Superman on TV. Reeves' career completely tanked after the success of The Adventures of Superman, which ran for 6 seasons. Ironically, Ben Affleck, of course, playing Batman, actually played George Reeves in the movie Hollywoodland, and kind of actually shows some of the kind of after effects of what he went through after playing Superman, kind of these little roles in like little public appearances and stuff, and how much he hated it and how much it just kind of ruined his life.
But it's how he made his money.
Exactly. And just about a year after the final episode aired of The Adventures of Superman, Reeves was found dead in his bedroom with a gunshot wound to the head.
Yeah.
Now, it was ruled as a suicide, but there are many, many, many reasons to believe that it may have actually been something a little more sinister.
Maybe we'll do an episode on that.
We might.
Finally, we come to Christopher Reeves. Now, a lot of you, this is your Superman. You will know that he played Superman in 4 movies, starting in 1978.
And while those movies were very successful, I didn't say good, I said successful, Reeves actually went on to have a pretty successful career afterwards. And he actually was, in fact, in talks to return to play Superman for a 5th time in a movie, I think that was actually going to be called Superman Returns, but was not the Brandon Routh Superman Returns, but it actually involved Brainiac. It was going to be the biggest spectacle, the biggest Superman movie, even the biggest superhero movie, at least at the time.
Right.
But unfortunately, that never came to pass because on May 27th of 1995, of course, Christopher Reeve was riding his horse when it threw him, and he ended up completely paralyzed for the rest of his life. And of course, he died in 2004 at the age of 52. But on a personal note, I would just love to say that even after the accident, if you've ever watched the series Smallville, his appearance on there, just absolutely beautiful. And it shows what kind of a class act that man was, even staying so positive even after the accident. The man was Superman, even if he couldn't fly.
Several other Superman actors have befallen the curse, but none of them as bad or as long-lasting as the ones we mentioned.
As a matter of fact, it wasn't even just the Superman actors. They would actually say that people that were just in the Superman movies, it kind of spread to them as well, but not quite as famous on that part, so we'll just make a quick mention of it and move on. Our next curse actually affects an entire film franchise, and that being the 80s horror classic Poltergeist.
I love that movie.
Absolutely.
Number 1 and number 2.
Yeah, the first 2, yes. Actually, I'm one of those people, I actually think the second one was better than the
Kane.
first one. Kane was the creepiest dude ever to be put on film. But I digress.
Right.
So the majority of the fuel behind this curse actually comes from multiple deaths under multiple bizarre circumstances of multiple cast members. Two of the deaths in particular were kind of out of left field and happened under pretty bizarre circumstances, which over the years has left fans really kind of speculating about, the curse or just eerie implications in general.
All those rumors going around. Yeah. First up, speaking of all the rumors, Heather O'Rourke, who played Carol Ann in all 3 of the Poltergeist movies. She was burst onto the scene as the cute little blonde, they're here, actress. In 1987, Heather, with her family, they were at Big Bear. They had a cabin there. And she developed a case of giardiasis,
which I'd never heard of that one either.
It's actually something that taints the well water. Yeah. And so she developed that and was rushed to the hospital. Sadly, at the hospital, she was misdiagnosed with having Crohn's disease, and she was giving a steroid shot to help with that, and it just made matters worse.
Also, a fun fact that steroid shot has actually caused her cheeks to swell up, which is why she looked a little more odd in Poltergeist 3. Yeah. Apparently she was quite bothered by that, but that's what caused that. That following year, while she actually was filming Poltergeist 3, she actually fell ill and passed out at home. They thought that it was like flu-like symptoms, so they really didn't think much of it. But the day after that, when she was at home, she collapsed. They rushed her to the hospital, and she actually went into cardiac arrest. Fortunately, they were able to get her heart started again, and they realized she had, in fact, not been suffering from Crohn's, but was suffering instead from intestinal stenosis. Basically, it's an inflammation of the intestines that causes everything to kind of close until it builds up and then eventually will burst because it becomes so full. They rushed her into emergency surgery, and the surgery went without a hitch, went completely fine. But while she was in the recovery room, somehow, for whatever reason, she went into cardiac arrest again, and unfortunately this time they weren't able to get it started again.
She was 13.
12, 12, almost 13. Yeah. Right? It was like right before her 13th birthday, if I remember right.
And that's where the speculation of the curse didn't start with her, but that propelled it even more.
Definitely.
Now, it actually started after the filming of Poltergeist 1.
Right.
And that was with Dominique Dunne, who played Dana, Carol Ann's older sister, in the first movie. Now, in October of 1982, just a few months after the release of Poltergeist, Dunne was at her house rehearsing for an upcoming role.
She was going to be in V.
Which I love too.
Yes, we actually rented that, or did we buy it, or we bought it? Anyway, classic miniseries. The series, but the miniseries, it holds up.
She was rehearsing at her home with David Packer, who's an actor who played in V, when there was a knock on her door. It was her ex-boyfriend, John Sweeney. He had showed up unexpectedly, so she went to the door to talk to him.
And actually, a little bit before this, she was on the phone with a girlfriend of hers, and Sweeney actually had the operator break through the call.
Oh yeah.
And so she's like, let me get him off the phone real quick. So she takes care of all of that, and like 10 minutes later, here he is knocking on the door. She talked to him for a few minutes behind the locked door. She didn't let him in, but after a moment, he was calm. Basically, he's there trying to beg for her, her to take him back. She agrees to step out on the porch and have a conversation with him. And of course, like you would under that type of circumstance, David Packer, he stays behind in the room. You don't want to involve anybody in that awkwardness, especially, another actor who...
and a guy.
Yeah.
You don't want to, be the guy who's involved in that.
Right. So he stayed inside while the two of them step outside to have a conversation, and unfortunately this turned out to be a horrible, horrible mistake.
While on the porch, the two began to actually argue, and David Packer, who was inside, heard what he described as some slaps, a scream, and then a loud thud. He, of course, did what anyone would do, and he called the police. But the police told him when they were on the phone with him that it was outside of their jurisdiction.
Is that a thing?
Apparently
I mean, if it's outside of their jurisdiction, then it just goes to someone else's jurisdiction, so you transfer the call. I don't get that.
Yeah. David Packer, of course, hangs up with the police because they said they can't come out.
What are you gonna do?
He's still a little scared. I mean, he keeps hearing this noise.
Right.
So he actually gets on the phone and calls his friend and says, hey, if I end up dead, John Sweeney did it.
So then he runs and he escapes out the back door, tries to, making his way to his car, basically, but he gets over towards the driveway, and he actually sees Sweeney standing there, kind of like in the bushes, standing over Dominique's body. Sweeney looks at him and says, "Hey, call the police." And of course, this time, they actually showed up.
Yeah. When police arrived, Sweeney immediately put his hands over his head and actually, surrendered.
At least he did the right thing.
He immediately told them that he killed his ex-girlfriend, and then he tried to kill himself.
He later testified that he remembers having an argument with Dominique, but he doesn't remember what happened after that argument. He, didn't try to claim that it didn't happen or anything. He just says that the only thing that he remembers was being on top of her with his hands around her throat.
She was 19, 20?
Something. I'm not entirely sure.
She was really young, too.
Yeah. The other two big actor deaths that were involved with Poltergeist were equally as unfortunate, but not as equally as unseen, if that made sense at all. First was Julian Beck. He, of course, was the actor that played Father Kane in Poltergeist 2.
Amazing actor.
Oh, so creepy. So, yeah. I don't know that I would have liked that movie nearly as much if it had not been for him. He actually was diagnosed with stomach cancer, which took his life shortly after he finished his filming on Poltergeist 2. I think it was even before the movie was released, if I'm not mistaken.
He was sick on the set, and that actually, the jaundice, the sunken in look and stuff, it was really much how he was. And then he was diagnosed with the stomach cancer. Yeah. Will Sampson, who played Taylor, the Native American shaman in Poltergeist 2, actually passed away having a heart and lung transplant. He was told beforehand, and if you think of a heart and lung transplant, it's a slim chance of, that's a big thing. That's not just one thing. It's, you're trying to do two. But he did pass away, and he is also named as someone who's been cursed by Poltergeist.
Right. But I mean, you kind of started to say that there, but to be fair, that particular surgery, they did tell him up front that particular surgery does have a very slim survival rate. Yeah. Very slim. So again, like we said, that one was kind of not as unforeseen, but still, it counts because it's up there. In fact, this particular curse is believed to even affect people years after the movie came out, which I think you're just calling it coincidence by that point, or a thing that happened. Basically, in 2009, actor Lou Perryman, he played a construction worker in Poltergeist, was actually axed to death in his home by an ex-convict. So yes, it's a thing that happened. I mean, it's weird that something so extreme happened to someone who also happened to be in a cursed movie, but still. It's
like Zelda. Zelda passed away.
Right.
But she's not usually put with the curse because it was so many years later.
There were other people involved in Poltergeist that were able to escape death, but nonetheless still left with some pretty nasty trauma. In 1992, actor Richard Lawson, he played Ryan in Poltergeist. He was one of just a handful of survivors on a plane crash that killed 27 out of 51 passengers on board.
Yeah, they said he's traumatized.
I'm sure.
Not quite the same.
Just the fear of the crash itself, and then having survivor's guilt, which that is definitely a thing, and I can only imagine.
Yeah. And finally, the reason for the curse. They actually used real skeletons, so that mud scene thing where the skeleton, that's actually real skeletons. And so a lot of people have this theory that they use the wrong skeletons or whatever.
Well, they said that the reason for the skeletons, and I'm not sure I agree with this, but this is the reasoning that was given, was because of the fact that it would take 4 to 5 days to shoot that scene, and it was such a muddy and wet scene that the normal prop skeletons that they would use, they would deteriorate, and they wouldn't hold up, or they would fall apart or whatever, but they wouldn't hold up. So they needed real skeletons, like you do, I guess, but they got them from a nearby, research lab or something, and
But there was also an exorcism that happened on set while they were filming. So, real skeletons, exorcism on set, curse?
Maybe. In fact, the remake of Poltergeist They said there apparently was supposed to be some weird stuff that happened on that set too, but who cares? The movie is blasphemy. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. We understand it's a completely short episode this week, but we're traveling this week, so we had to kind of get a week's worth of filming and a week's worth of editing done in just a couple of days. So today and Thursday, both a little shorter than usual, but
still fun.
Yeah, still fun. And we will pick this conversation up on Thursday, and we'll talk about a couple more movies that are cursed. So join us for that.
And in between, be sure to follow us on all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, here on YouTube.
Yeah, we're on YouTube? I didn't realize. And as always, guys, do the YouTube things like liking, sharing, subscribing, all of those wonderful, wonderful YouTube things. We do have content here every Monday through Friday, and we do a different type of show every day. So with the exception of this particular show on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but the other 3 days are something a little different. So something for everyone. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of that stuff.
Be sure to comment and let us know what you think of the movie Curses. What's your favorite cursed movie? Did we talk about it, or maybe we'll talk about it on Thursday?
But most importantly, comment so you can let us know what you would like to see next on a series of enigmatic events. Thanks for watching.